the results out there, but they also want to be spectacular and entertain and be visually stimulating. So my first one was in 2005, so excuse the quality, but it's 2005, but this is a camera in a real studio. This is on a crane that's flying in and picking up, it was a blue screen studio, I believe, and this is Peter Snow, the presenter of the time, and so the results are coming in and we're populating the results in real time. So as the data comes in, we have to populate in real time. As he walks around, he can then explain what's going on the night and entertain and engage the viewers. This graphic is very famous in elections. It's called a swingometer, exactly. So if you know what that does, it basically measures the swing between one party and another. So you can see what percentage of swing, you can see how much of a change there is on a night. All of those little dots represent a constituency, and there's 650 something constituencies in the UK. So you have to, in the graphics, you have to be able to represent all of those, sometimes all on the screen at the same time. Then we come to, I think this is 2018, so jumping forward, you can see now, this is a real studio. Now we're zooming into Jeremy Vine, who's the presenter, and we're in a complete 3D environment of Downing Street. So the designers built the whole of Downing Street as a 3D environment, and now Jeremy can walk around, he can populate it with these graphics to say, well, on the night, what's happening and exactly where the race is and where it's at. Here's another example where it's, oh, just to show you actually on this, as it comes in here. On this here, this is the building, the outside of Broadcasting House. So at the same time as we're doing these graphics, we're also broadcasting live as an architectural graphic on the front of Broadcasting House, the results as they're coming in. So people can walk past, as they're walking past, they see those results. Not just that we can take a shot and it looks quite impressive, but it's obviously very different to, sorry, zapping ahead. It's obviously very different to what we do in VR. This is called VR. So here's the Commons, the House of Commons. Anybody know why the seats are green? That's because the Commons is the common place where everybody, the common people would assemble. So therefore the seats are green. But so you're represented, your constituency is represented by a person in that particular, in the House. And as the results come in, you can see it says 191 to Labour. If on the night it suddenly went 192, that would update in real time, and we're taking that data in real time. I've also done a few different esports. Now, it's a similar workflow actually, because what you've got is a live event that's happening, and you've got data coming in, and the data's coming in real time, and you need to get it out quick as the results are happening, whether it's an election or whether it's esports. This was the 2018 Pro-Am, which you recognise, I'm sure, some of these people. My 12-year-old stepdaughter, her friends still come in and say, "Are you the guy that worked with Marshmallow?" And I'm like, well, he was in the same room as me, but I didn't actually work with him. But now you can see these graphics. We have to populate the eliminations. We have to take out all the data. And here's PUBG. With this, you can see the phase of the map. We have a control system where we can look at where did they actually walk, where did they go, where did they start, and we can analyze that. And there's lots of data points that we bring in that we can analyze and able to see what's the story of the last game. And you have to do that quickly, right? Because you're nearly ready for the next game. The next game is going to be starting. So you can use this for stats and for analysis. So we'll cover what it is, how does it work, and why would you use it. Some definitions. We're going to talk about real-time versus post-rendered. Green screen, I'm sure you know about, and then we'll go into VR, virtual reality or virtual studio, AR, augmented reality, and extended reality. So I think you probably know, right, the difference between real-time and post-production. On the right there you see a frame from Toy Story. They say, some data I found, 1,200 hours per frame to render it. So to render one frame of Toy Story takes 1,200 hours. Now in reality it doesn't take that. I'm getting the camera. Well, it doesn't take that long, because what they do is they build up loads of computers into what they call a render farm. So they'll have 50 computers in a room, and then they will render it, and it will be much quicker to render. But if you make a mistake and Woody's hat needs to be tilted a little bit this way, you need to start again and re-render everything. When we're doing elections, it has to be rendered in real time because we're live. We're live on air to the nation. So it has to all be real time. Now, you've got big differences here that the quality you can achieve here is much better because you've got the time to really refine it. You can tweak the lighting, you can tweak the textures, you can tweak the materials. We do that, but we then have to run everything in real time. And a video game is actually very similar because when you're playing the game, you need to, as you move the camera, it has to be in real time. But in a video game, if something jumps or something, you don't really notice it. But if you're live on TV and the camera moves and something in the graphics jumps, you will notice it and people pick it up. And in fact, there's TV forums where you can see they've registered those mistakes. So real time versus post-production is an important thing to understand. And the technology now in real time with Unreal Engine and some of the game engines is getting to the point where it's really powerful so that you can almost do this kind of level of photorealism that you can do with movies. Polygons. Who knows what a polygon is? So you do? A polygon is basically a triangle that you use to draw and create graphics. So like I say, I'm just giving you a high level so you can kind of understand where things go wrong. That's really where to understand. So if you look at the difference here, the more polygons you've got, the more resolution you'll have. So if you think about it like pixels, then polygons are similar in that respect. But when you've got a 3D environment, the more polys you can generate, the better. It comes to a point of diminishing returns, and then you have to look at other things and other techniques to improve the quality of the graphics. But the key thing to remember here is to render this is very quick, to render this is much slower. So for your computer power, if you're doing real time, you have to make sure that you've got enough performance to render. So real time costs performance on a PC. If it's a complex 3D environment, if it's got plenty of lights, animations, things changing in the graphics, and if you've got external tracking systems or video input and output. So we carefully measure how many frames per second everything is happening. And I'm telling you this just to show, so you make sure when you understand, if you build an environment, you must make sure it runs in real time. Because if it doesn't, when you come and see the camera move, it will jump, everything will jump. So it's really important to study and understand how many lights you've got, the composition, the post-processing, etc. So I say, I don't want to go too much. We can, if you've got questions on this, we can talk about it later. So the basic sort of workflow is we've got real-time data coming in. It could be a sports show, an esports show, quiz, elections, voting, anything where the data is live and is real-time. It goes into a graphics renderer and then it goes out to the output. In an elections workflow, we've got exactly that. People are making a cross on a piece of paper, putting it in a box, somebody's counting it. I can't believe in this day and age we still rely on that to make a vote. Surely there's a blockchain technology and an app that could help us. But anyway, that's what happens. People put the right mark in the piece of paper, somebody tots it all up, it goes into the computer, the graphics are rendered, and that's what you see on the final output. But esports is a very similar workflow because we've got game data, and you think about everything that's happening in a game. We can analyze kill-death ratio, eliminations. We can work out the guns they're using. You know, all of that data is there and is actually recorded by the games engines. The games engines record all of that anyway for their own analysis. But we can take that and we can take a certain amount of that to turn it into a graphic, to turn it into a story to entertain the audience. So this is where you think about why you would use it. You would use it to analyze or to compare or to get the drama up. These two people, look how close they are if we look at their data or we look at the weapons they're using or we look at the race or the position in the race. Green screen, everybody knows what that is, right? We all understand. This is a simple example of a green screen, and this is probably Unreal Engine running in that, but it just shows you. The important thing to notice here is with a green screen, the camera's not moving, okay? This is a traditional weather broadcast system. The camera does not move. The background stays static, then they press animations and they see these different things, and when he's looking down in this corner, you think he's looking at the map, He's got a monitor off screen here that he's looking at to be able to see what he's talking about. But the camera's not moving. And that's fine for most applications. The graphic is zooming in, but the camera's, he's not changing size at all. So this is your basic block diagram for green screen. They also call it CSO, chroma separation overlay, chroma key. You've got a background generator. You need to create something you want to put in the background. You've got a compositor that puts it together, and you've got your presenter and green screen via a camera that feeds into that. And that's as simple as it is. So your final composite looks something like that. You start with your green screen and your background, and you need a device to composite both of those together. And there are different ways of doing it. There's a hardware or a software version. The hardware version, up until recently, in the last couple of years, was the best in terms of any times you see a bad chroma key, you'll notice around the edges of hair, you'll notice glass, you know. So particularly the Ultimat was a hardware chroma key. You put the video signal in, put the video out, and the hardware did the processing. Now you can do obviously chroma key on your phone or on Adobe products or whatever. And now there's also some real-time chroma keys that are software-based that run inside the computer that will do the same thing. And so yeah, depending on the quality of the chroma key, it depends on the quality of the image that you get. But what happens if I want to move the camera? This is my my little baby Yoda, and this is my camera that my 3-year-old son said is a camera because it's made out of Lego. And now if I move the camera, right, if I keep the camera locked off and baby Yoda moves around, that's absolutely fine. But if I move the camera or I zoom or I do anything like so, the presenter will appear to move, but the background stays exactly where it is. So by doing that, if I show that to you, it looks like Baby Yoda's moving around, right? Baby Yoda is, because if you go closer with the camera, Baby Yoda will do that. If you go further away, if you go like this. So now what we need is some method to be able to, when we move the camera, the background moves at the same time. And so it appears that Baby Yoda stays in the same position as I move the camera. So if we look at an example here, we would call these a virtual studio. So it's normally the same situation, that it's a green screen, there's a composite going on, but now he's staying where he is, but the camera is moving out. The camera is starting to move. Now, why would you do that? Because you want to create more engagement. You want to create more drama or more. If you say to any director, direct this film, but you can't move the camera, what are they going to say? So when you watch these kind of shows where you see that they are chroma keyed, they're superimposed in front of something, but they're now moving the camera and they're starting to give you more dynamics. And this is the Weather Channel, and they're kind of become famous for going crazy with the dynamics. So here he's doing a traditional sort of weather forecast. He's talking about, again, we're bringing data in because he's talking about the data of the potential storm surge and where it's likely to hit on the town. But now we start to zoom out and see he's now in an environment, and we start to see, right, this is crazy. Let's see what would happen if we had a 3-foot storm surge, or let's see if we had a. And now he's just in a green screen, but you can move the camera more. You can start to get creative, and then, you know, you can start to get silly. But the question is this frightening people? Is it informing people? The bottom line is this gets shared. Everybody says, did you see the weather forecast by the Weather Channel? It's crazy what could happen in this town. So that's the point. Is it engaging? Is it informative? Is it going to... But now, in order to do that, we've got to attach, and this is my Lego camera here. I need to attach some device to the camera so that now, when I move the camera, the background moves with it. I've got to have a connection between those two. And in fact, here you can see that. So we've got the same situation, the presenter and the green screen. We've got a camera, and we've got tracking data that we feed into the background generator. So now as we zoom the lens, we've got a mechanical system that sits there and measures the number of zooms and feeds it into the background. We have to calibrate that to set it up. So the setup for a system like this is much more complicated. It takes a lot longer to set up than just putting a camera, a green screen and getting the lighting right. But you're up in the dynamism and the engagement. So you then need something like this. You need a tracking system on the camera, so you can see some of them work by, this one works by using a point cloud and pointing at the screen and finding all different points, and now it knows the reference, it can move away from that. This one has little stars in the ceiling that you attach reflective stars, and now there's a camera on top that knows when I see those stars, I know where I am within the studio. And you have to calibrate that up and set it up. So now you can do stuff like this. So this is a handheld camera. It's probably a star tracker or something like that. They've got a tracking system probably in the ceiling. But here you can see the green screen, and here you can see the final composite. Now, this might not be real time. It might be shot and then done later as a plate. And so this would have been done and then recorded. You can see some marks on the green screen, and we'll get back to that. But now you can see that you can move the camera around the environment and create a lot more dynamism. I keep using that word, dynamism. And a good thing to notice here, when you're matching the virtual world with the real world, look at all the lights here, okay, that replicate the light coming from the kiosk. That becomes your challenge then when you're doing something like this, is how do you match the real world with the virtual world? And let's look at this. This is, and the other one is shadows. I feel shadows are important to create realism. It looks like somebody's actually planted there. So you can see they've got some shadow here. Now this is a room, a game engine that's running a room. But now the camera's moving around, and the camera will follow them into another room, and they do a really good job of matching the real world versus the virtual world. So here you can see what's happening. Now they're matching lights from the real world with lights in the virtual world. So as the light changes color, it changes color in the and then just zapping through this. Then they talk about some of the other real-time graphics features. But now you can do shadows in two ways. You can try and key the real shadow from the screen. Then you have to have a really good keyer. Or you can create virtual shadows that follow her. Now you need a way of tracking her. And as she moves around, you can see shadows. You can also see that here they do defocus, so they're defocusing, which is getting the depth of field from the camera. Again, that has to be matched from the camera and put into the background.
Anthony, don't you leave me alone in this hallway, please. Hello? Anthony?
And this is quite clever, that they have pretended now she's in another environment. She's in a video wall, and then she walks out of the video wall. But the thing to notice here, again, if you look closely, watch the shadow on her feet. It kind of just comes after her. But that's being generated digitally in the background generator, in the computer. So, anybody watch Match of the Day? So did you know that was a virtual studio? Yeah. So this made me laugh because it's the Sun. It says fans heartbroken that they realised it wasn't a real studio. They've done their job, especially not for guys like you or for people like me that really watch this stuff, because we watch it and we go, and we know it's not real. But even like I said, my stepdaughter, 12-year-old stepdaughter, she can see things now, I guess because of TikTok, because of stuff. She can just see production, but a lot of people didn't realize that this Match of the Day studio was not real, and that's actually what is real. So this is real, the rest is green screen. So it's exactly the same process of virtual studio. So now we'll talk about augmented reality. It's a similar setup, basically. The difference is you don't need a green screen. You can put the presenter anywhere. You can put the presenter here in this studio, and then as long as you've got a camera tracking system, you can feed that to a background generator, to a computer, and then you can composite the two. Now, there's two different types of keys. So there's a chroma key using color, and then there's a linear key, which is what this does. So now you would have Baby Yoda with a graphic in front of them, and AR graphics are generally always in front. There are some tricks, but generally you will always see that the presenter will be behind the graphic, or the audience or the shot will show that it's behind. But now you've got no need for green screen, and now you can do stuff like this. So this is a Portuguese election, I think, yeah, maybe it was. So this is all real, obviously. This is real lighting. This is a real studio. You can see scuffs on the floor and stuff. But they're putting then graphics in front of the presenter. And again, these graphics are all linked via data to the votes. So you've got two types of data. You've got the tracking data that has to come into the computer, and then you've got the data that gives you the information from the game or from the votes. Now, I don't know if you think, but they're not moving the camera very much, right? It's quite conservative in terms of that. Let's look at an esports example and see the difference. So here's a big arena, and now the teams are all on their flags have you guys seen any of this sort of stuff? You've seen, I don't know which, but again, all of the AR objects are in front of everything else that's going on, the real world that's going on. And I don't know if you notice something with this, but as the teams come up and as the cameras move, they're flat. Because they're videos. So it's a chroma key of a video they've shot the person, you know, like they do on the Premier League, they come and stand there like that, they shoot that, then they bring it into the system, but now they tell it to face the camera wherever that camera moves. But if that camera moves too far, it's flat. Now there is a way now to scan a person, and they did start to do it a couple of years ago, especially with Champions League. They were doing some stuff where they were scanning people. You stand into the thing, scan the person, now you've got their scan, you can create a 3D object from them. And now you could put the 3D object of the team in there, and now you could fly around them. And it wouldn't have that effect. We call that billboard effect, because it's a billboard that stays there wherever the camera is going. But as you can see on these examples, they're less conservative because they're trying to be entertaining, they're trying to push the show further, and they want it to look great. The thing is, with something like this, with a show like this, with esports, you've got multiple sets of graphics going on, because these need graphics, these real screens need graphics, if they are real screens. That's real, I think. This is virtual. Yeah, so we need to be able to feed lots of different graphics to different places. AR graphics for the cameras to fly around, and then standard graphics for all the screens. And so you might want to have real-time graphics on each of those areas, and you might want to send them in different places. So again, all these stats, everything is all coming in real time, and you've got analysis and people looking at it. Just like any sport broadcast, really, you also want to have people that are experts that can look at the graphics and say, look, this is where they went wrong, this is the... And then once you've got like a 3D environment, you can build this car, and now with your camera, as long as you've got the tracking system and you know where the position is, you can fly around and through. And then stats, as the game goes on, you can have stats in real time. Let's have a look. And here is an example of both, basically. So here I'm in a virtual studio. Let me turn this. So I'm in a virtual studio. I've got a screen there. So I'm in a green screen. camera is tracking, the camera is moving. Now I'm bringing objects in that are linked to data, and I can animate them and I can change them. But as we go on, now we've got AR graphics. So now with VR, we're standing in a green screen, but now I can bring in other graphics that come in front. So now I've got two planes. I've got what's in front and what's behind. So that's AR and VR combined. And this is pretty cool. I can also use my iPhone here I got a control device on my iPhone, and I can just control the stats on my iPhone. Now, as well as that, you've actually got, depending on your phone, but you've got AR on your phone. So it's getting to the point where the technology is becoming cheaper and cheaper. Soon, maybe you won't need a camera tracking system as long as the technology is in the camera. And this is a Spider-Man app that I just downloaded just to play with. So this is AR as well, and notice he's got a shadow. So that technology, and this is the thing that's happening across the board. It used to be only really good. There he's sliding down from the window, yeah. Yeah, these technologies used to be only good for the high-end broadcasters because the cost was so expensive to get the tracking system, to build the compositors, to build the software. Now, with things like Unreal Engine and etc., it's starting to become cheaper and easier to do it. So let's talk about XR, extended reality, or some people call it ER, extended reality. So do you guys know what, have you come across that? So this little guy is kind of responsible for a lot of things. He's changed the way the production is done, virtual production. When people traditionally always talked about virtual production, it was always a virtual studio pretty much. It was put somebody in a green screen, sit them in there, have a tracking system, and generate the background. There were lots of reasons why they did this, and there's a great article actually here. You've got the presentation, so you get all the links. You can just go and see all the links if you want to. But imagine with this Mandalorian outfit for my mind. I haven't actually looked to see whether this is the case, but how much reflection you get. If I stand close to a green screen like this, it will reflect on me. Now I've got to, when I do my composite, when I do my chroma key, I've got to get rid of that green. If I don't get rid of it, then it doesn't look real. So maybe that was one of the things. But the other thing was changing things quickly, being able to change things quickly. So they changed what they were doing for this production. And this little clip kind of shows you traditionally how effects were done in movies was to have a green screen with these marks. You often see those marks when you see the behind the scenes. And that means that later the computer, if you're not using a tracking system, the computer can pick up these crosses and know where the position of the camera was. It takes time, and it takes a long time to render those scenes. So this was traditionally how you would make all your transitions and all your shots, and then you would add those plates together. But this is actually a screen that he's got here. It's an LED screen. So when he changes it, he can change it and feed that screen with graphics. So now, as long as you need a tracking system on the camera, the same as we've seen before, but now the background moves in real time as the camera is tracking, as the camera is moving. And I think he'll show like exactly how you see it if you're not looking. So this is he's just showing the camera tracking system, which is NCAM, and again, what that does is it's got little cameras on top of the camera that then look at the scene, and they create like a point cloud. And he's going to show that there. So it creates this point cloud, and then once I know the reference, now if I move the camera away, then I know this was the original reference, and I know how far I've moved away from something. So now once you've got that tracking system and you're feeding something into the screen that is generated, now you see as he moves the camera, the background moves in real time. So that means the view out of this camera means we see it and it looks like it's synchronized. The real world and the virtual world seem to be synchronized. And they call it extended reality because you can extend that as far as you like. You can extend that to crazy amounts. So this is, you've got some real set here. You shoot here, you've got the virtual element here, and now as my camera tracks, if I'm doing a tracking shot in, this will move in real time. So here's a couple of examples of that. So here's your block diagram. Very similar. The difference is you've got a real studio with an LED screen in it. Your camera has a tracking system. That goes to the background generator, but the video from the graphics is then fed back into this screen. So actually what you see is like you see these systems that are cubes, and there's a lot of these have been used for corporate shows and things like that. But again, esports as well. So you've got one wall here, and a floor here. So you're actually walking, instead of on a green screen, you're walking on an LED. And the LED is shining light up and will change the graphics. So this was one of the first times, what's happened? There we go. So now, with the camera here, you're seeing I'm walking, these are LEDs, and you can see it's moving. And it doesn't make sense when you look at it like this, but when you look at the output of this camera, which you'll see in a sec, it makes perfect sense. So now you see the output, and you can see that it looks like I'm in a real studio, or I'm walking around. And all of these graphics can be changed in real time. You could have scores here, you could have anything that you wanted in terms of data-driven graphics in the background. So this is Disguise, which is one of the companies that do this sort of stuff. And so this has been used a lot recently for pop promos, for this sort of stuff. You can see just how far you can go with it, and you can turn it into... So you don't realize she stood on a studio that might only be that far, but then they extend the graphics further. You can have a thing called a mask, which just masks off the sides, and now you can extend that. And this is what I like. You can also do stuff that brings you inside. So you could turn something into a virtual object and have people... This technology has been used for fashion shots, and then... So here you're seeing, for people in the live auditorium, they're seeing that, but people watching at home are seeing a completely different thing. So now you get these hybrid events where it's good for the people in the stadium, but it's also good for people watching at home. So you get a different experience depending where you are. Now, the thing with all of this stuff, it doesn't matter whether it's VR, AR, or XR, you have to build the graphics. You still have to build the environment. You have to build the graphics that you want to use. So you can see with those wipes, you can see what the people at home are seeing versus the people in the environment. This is another example which is particularly esports. So here you see they've got a real studio with real seats, and this is often the thing in virtual world, in the virtual reality world. If you're going to sit on a seat, you either have to have a real seat or you have to have a green seat and sit on it in a position. We did have elections where we had stairs, and then you had to match the real stairs with the virtual stairs. It was a real headache. Here you can have a real studio, and then you can extend it and start to add different things with extended reality. Again, you need a tracking system, you need to build these graphics, you need to build everything that you want to see. Here's another example, and this is good because they do a wipe between the two. But again, the thing you notice, no shadows, right? So you can't have a shadow. They're working on ways to have a shadow in this environment, but you've got light coming up from the floor. So it's much harder to have a shadow because you've got to create a virtual shadow. You've got to be able to create a shadow that is in the graphics. But what's nice with this video, you can just see it mixes between you know, the real studio or the real output, what you're seeing, and then the mask. So you can see just exactly where the masks are, and you can see the same for this one. And what's great about this, you can turn a smallish studio, or you can turn a studio into a much larger environment. So now you can see this is all real, right? And but now you turn on the graphics, you turn on the extended reality, and now you've got the opportunity to add a lot more to your production in terms of breadth and depth. And of course, these graphics, they can all be real time. If you scored, or if there was stats through the game, you can put the stats in there, you can put them in real time. So that's extended reality. I'm going to turn this.
So you want to take your presentation to the next level? Well, we can help. We were lucky enough to get along to the Sky showroom in London to check out one of their extended reality setups. So it comprises of an LED floor and an LED wall, very typical kit that we're all familiar with. And as you'd expect, we have put some content on these products, and straight away it looks like I'm in a TV studio. But you know, we are really limited to the size of the room and the size of the physical LED product itself. What if we actually take away those boundaries and immerse myself in a virtual world? Well, the Skies have done this with some fantastic hardware, and that is the Sky Solutions. What if we actually take away those boundaries and immerse myself in a virtual world? Well, the Skies have done this with some fantastic hardware, and that is the Sky Solutions. So as you see now, I'm in a virtual world. There is a seamless transition between the physical LED wall and the virtual set. The camera can pan around as it usually would when an operator drives this, and the model will react in real time to those camera movements.
Cool. That's yeah. So same sort of idea. You can see exactly what's going on in terms of the. And so just going back to this one, this is kind of extended reality in that you are limited to your green screen in terms of where the physical presentation can go, but all of this is masked out. So although she is keyed out, we can mask out everything else here. And so one of the reasons to use XR, when we are doing elections, we have to draw things on the actual physical floor to see where the presenter might need to point to a particular country or a result. So we have to draw things. And in fact, on some elections, we had projectors that were above and where they would project the same graphics, but that wouldn't be seen by the keyer. And so you could actually touch a particular area of the map or whatever. So this is what the presenter sees, and then this is what the people at home see. So that if he needed to touch a particular constituency, he could do it without getting lost or being confused. And again, with XR, you don't have that problem because you're seeing on the presentation, you're seeing what, and so you can point to things and you can solve that problem. There's another thing to think about, just as an aside. Once you've got tracking data, you've got the camera tracking data, you could also track objects. You can track people. So I can have a little marker in my clothes here, and now as long as I've got a tracking system, it knows where I am in the space and where I am in the studio. So you can then do funky things like tracking a torch like so, and the graphics changing in real time with the shadow and the lighting being updated in real time. So why use any of this technology? Well, let's just sort of wrap this up with that kind of with a few ideas of why. You're using data to inform, basically. So you can create a top-down view. You can create different views for the audience than you would if you were just to create a normal show. You can give them a different perspective. You can build excitement, as I said earlier, by creating some kind of drama between different contestants. You can compare stats on contestants. So here's a view of a CSGO application where you've got the map, top-down view, and you can see, not only can you do it live, but now we record all of that data. You can record the game data, and now you can go back and analyze, well, what happened at this point or at this point? And you can show the audience, look, if he'd have gone this way or if he'd have gone that way, you can give them some alternatives, or you can give them a more engaging program. Then you can compare stats, so you can do stuff like bring up different players, look at their stats, compare them, and throw that out as a graphic so people can see a different combination. The other thing is to retain attention. Here's two different election graphics, right? This is a full screen graphic, and this is Jeremy inside the environment. A company I worked with, a broadcaster I worked with, they did some research, and they found out that whenever they put up a full screen graphic, people turned off, people turned away. Because, look, it's, you know, if you're a fan of data, then maybe you love it. But Jeremy's here talking to you. So the presenter is engaging you. If the presenter is engaging, it's exactly what you're talking about in terms of your learning, the way you're learning is changing, right? Because you're not doing so many lectures, you're doing more interactive stuff. It's exactly that. So that now he's interacting with the graphics and he's engaging you. So that's why there's this desire to do that. Here's a financial company, CNBC. And again, it's about making fairly boring data into something a bit more exciting. And so you're telling the story, she's engaging you, she's talking about the various different stocks, and you're creating a much more engaging environment. And with this, they also do it with just with like stories of the day. So it's just a different way. Instead of having a news presenter presenting at you, you can have something for them to interact and walk around. With XR production, you've got no chroma green or blue spill. There's no compositing, so you haven't got to worry about that chroma key compositing. It's real-time immersive. It's much faster and easier to set up. And as I say, you can create better engagement by analysing. You can look in detail at the data and create more. And you can visit other worlds. So you can go into a different environment. You could bring the game environment in, and you can walk around the game environment. So it means that the presenter can be somewhere that can show the audience around a particular game, or show them around the way a game works. And you can bring elements from the game into and with your presenters. So you could say, let's bring a character from the game and let's bring it into a presentation with the presenter. So you can create spectacle and go viral. This is kind of just a little show reel of different stuff. And the reason they do this is for that reason. Let's make our show more exciting, more dynamic than anybody else's. And then there's this one, I think is that one not, doesn't want to play. No, that was the Halo one. For some reason it's not playing. So you can save your time and money. You can have a graphics set up for daytime broadcast, and then instantly you can change it for an evening broadcast. So you can save time and money by, instead of building a set or 2 studios or building a set that you've got to come in and out of, you can just change it. So you change day to night instantly. You can add last minute sponsors. You can save in post-production, because we're not spending hours doing all that post-production. And as you can see, we can make a small space into something much bigger. So then finally, I'll just talk things about the future. I'm sure you know about Unreal Engine, right? You guys have probably played around with it. Unreal Engine 5 is coming, and I don't know if you've got an Xbox or a PlayStation. This demo that they did is really good. It's good to see it, just to play and have fun with it, but it's also good to see just how far they've come with Unreal Engine 5. When I was talking about polygons earlier and the number of polygons you can render is based on the performance of your PC or the ability of your graphics card in your PC. This is changing all that because they have something called nanites, so you can render a lot more, and also there's processes involved in removing the graphics that you're not going to see. Nanites help all of that, the lighting, the things they're doing with Unreal Engine 5 is just amazing. It's going to be a real game changer for games industry, but also for our industry in presentation and broadcast. So this is just a little walkthrough that I did myself just to look at all the different technology features. And they've built this complete city, and you can, walk around it, you can interact with it, and then you can also sort of turn on some of the technical things to see the mass AI that they're using and the way they're changing. It's a phenomenal demo. It really is worth seeing in terms of where graphics are going in the future. AI is another example, and so is this one? Doesn't want to play either. But some companies now are using AI to track players. So you can recognize either a player or a car. This was used by Fox Sports recently, where they can track a car and the position of the car, and then they know where the car is, and then they can add the graphics to it automatically because the system knows that car is that car, and I'll always put this graphic with it. So AI is going to change things considerably. And of course, I brought up the M word because once you build those 3D environments, and you have your presenter doing your show and your live show, what about now bringing that to the audience at home and allowing them to go into that 3D environment that you've built and be able to explore it? And obviously, we're at very early days with that, and we could talk forever about where that's going, but that's just something to be aware of. These are the companies that were featured. Most of the companies here that were featured. Just if you want to learn more about what they're doing, you can find them. And I've put some of the links in here. Handy one is this VP glossary, which if you ever come into virtual production, you don't know somebody's mentioning a word, go and find it there, and you'll see all the different explanations of that. And then some useful links of if you want to see some of the demos that I've featured here. So, any questions? That's me.
What did you prefer doing, the esports or like the election stuff?
That's a good question. I think the esports stuff, because it's just more fun and more, you can't help, whatever you work on, you can't help learning about it. So I learned a bit about politics when I was doing elections. But, it's very exciting in terms of the gameplay. And, you get exciting moments on elections where first when the kind of, they call it the exit poll, right? So that's been very accurate for the last God knows how many years. So that's an exciting moment because you kind of know where the election's going. A lot of people stay up to watch that and then turn it off so that's an exciting moment. And then you have exciting moments through the night where, suddenly this drama has happened. And that's where you have to be reactive, and the graphics have to be real time, because if suddenly this story is big, you need to be able to respond to that. And if your graphics aren't prepared for that, then you won't be able to. In esports, it's the same. There's exciting moments where, wow, this outside team has landed here, and it looks like they're gonna be a player in this final game. Then that's the exciting moments in that. But I would say I'm a gamer, so my biggest regret is that my mum has passed away, and I couldn't say to her, because she always said to me, "You'll never make any money playing video games." I couldn't say to her, "Look, I'm finally making money because of videos," because for the Fortnite Pro-Am, they employed me because I played games and I understood graphics. They were like, "You're perfect. We need," so it was a good combination for me. So, I'm biased because I'm a gamer, so is the honest answer, yeah. Any others?
I do have one.
Yeah, Lucy.
My study is about the offline esports events.
Yeah.
And I understand that the technology is developing really fast and it's going to be kind of replaced to more online version or metaverse version in the future. But at the moment, it's still a very important element in the esports industry.
Yeah.
But what we cover today, I feel like as a spectator in front of a screen or in front of your PC, It looks very exciting, but as a spectator sitting inside of the studio,
Yeah.
you don't really get that much experience
Yeah.
from this stuff.
Yeah.
Does the industry ever thought about what they could bring to the offline spectators in terms of?
Yes, that's a good question because I mean, one of my last big graphics jobs was helping to build the Tottenham Hotspur's new stadium. So the graphics that are in there's 4 big screens in there, and then there's ribbons, and it's crazy because those ribbons, the resolution, you know, if you think HD is 1920 by 1080, right? So in terms of, but those resolutions are, you know, 30,000 by 100, and you've got to fit graphics into those. But the whole thing, the whole idea was to create a exciting show for the people in the stadium. And so we didn't do any AR, VR in that situation. But that's where, if you're clever in terms of an esports company or an event company, if you can do graphics in situ for the people that are there in the stadium, and then AR graphics for people at home, and we saw some of that. You can have screens in the stadium that are real screens that you feed interactive graphics to or real-time graphics to, so the people in the stadium can see that, and then you do a separate production almost for the people that are watching at home.
Yeah, but saying that, so it's still kind of unparalleled to those AR, VR, XR experiences of the online spectators, like
Yeah.
the offline still. Well, I learned that in 2020 for the League of Legends World Finals, the spectators were given VR glasses.
Right,
that
right.
you could literally see the,
Right.
for example, elder dragons like flying somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think it's possible that in the future they could have the summoners reflected in the stadium, and with the glasses they could see the real-time thing, but also the...
Absolutely, yeah. You could do that now, but for the fact that if there's an arena of 5,000 people, you've got to give them 5,000 sets of glasses, right?
Yeah.
Or you have to tap into something. Google Glass is gone, but we've got like Ray-Ban doing stuff, and there's people that are going to come up with, you know, relatively low-cost goggles or glasses that will help that, and that it will become an augmented reality for me. And you touch on something like what we've started to see in broadcast now is there's 2 ways to broadcast, right? I'm watching the TV, and they call this second screen, right? So I have let's have a family night and we all watch TV, and I look across and everybody's on their phone. So the second screen is that screen now, you know.